Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? This video is going to be a response to Dark Age of Roleplay Games. He posted a video about your ideal game table maybe about a week ago, and I know RuneSlinger did a response video to it. I'm not sure if anybody else did yet, but RuneSlinger's was cool. Dark Age's video was cool, so I wanted to do my own. So I have a little Diet Root Beer here. Diet A&W, Lord of Diet Root Beer, and get on with this. Because, some of these questions, or the question itself, I would have answered a little bit differently maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And some of the things I'm going to say, I would have said 2 or 3 years ago anyway. But I figure it's kind of an interesting exercise. First, in terms of size, somewhere around 3 to 5 players is my sweet spot. For years, I would have told you 5 players, and that shows my D&D roots, because everybody knows that you're supposed to, at least in old school, you're supposed to have 2 fighters, a magic user, a cleric, and a thief. You cover all the bases, but you need 2 fighters because you need 2 guys who can fight at least. Old D&D roots. More than 5 players, it gets kind of unruly. I've certainly played, in games where there were 6 players, which worked great, but at that point, it becomes a little bit too much. The good thing about having like 5 players is then you're kind of covering all the bases in terms of some kind of, skill. Everybody has some kind of skill you might need, or resources, or what have you, or just enough bodies. But then again, henchmen can also take care of all that sort of stuff as well. 3 players is really kind of the sweet spot in terms of being able to interact with each other and the game master. So, I really understand Anthony's answer when he said 3, a group of 4 total. 2 for me is a little bit too few. So, maybe I'll say 4 as a sweet spot in between 3 and 5, but somewhere over 3 to 5. Depends on the people. Anyhow, it's not something I used to think about as much, but having a group where it's a stable group, but everybody's willing to be a game master and run games is cool. Anthony mentioned that in his video, and I'm having this experience now where we're all co-game mastering the same game, and just rotating who has the chair, and handing over the notebook, as it were, and letting the next person run it, which is cool. But just the idea that not having to run the game all the time, or not having the same person run the game all the time is really kind of liberating. Because I don't know about you, but when I grew up, a lot of the games that I was involved in, they kind of coalesced around a game master. It wasn't so much a gaming group as it was everybody knew other people that played, and okay, well, Mike's going to run a game, or Ivan's going to run a game, or Joe's going to run a game. And so that group coalesced around that campaign, that idea, which could be great. But it'd be neat, ideally it'd be neat to have a group of people that, are all willing to, like, say, run something. It doesn't have to be a co-DM of the same campaign. It could be, okay, well, now Sebastian's going to run something, and now Francois is going to run something. As far as, let's see, preferences and whatnot, this is something I'm answering different than I would have answered a while ago. Some years ago, I would have said I wanted people that all liked the exact same games that I liked, and we were all just kind of agreed on games, agreed on systems, agreed on play style, down to the minutia. These days, I no longer really want to circle the wagons. So, like, having a group of people that are willing to try new things and be open-minded, to me is a cool thing. That's something I find more ideal. With a caveat, like, however, we need to be, at least in my opinion, we need to be mostly on the same page in terms of our preferences and what we're looking for in our game experience. It's good to have some differences, so that we push each other to try new things. So our preferences definitely should not be identical. But somewhere, I'm not sure, if it transcends this or not, but somewhere in terms of like something like the GNS model, gamist, narrativist, simulationist, or our intentions, what we're looking for in the game experience, we should kind of match up. So as far as that preferred game style, like what kind of experience are we really looking for, that's a good thing. I think that's kind of necessary. But I like the idea that we can kind of like push each other a little bit in terms of trying out a different game style. Like, have you tried things a little bit more cinematic, a little bit more narrative, a little bit more, whatever, where we're able to push each other back and forth a little bit. So I don't think we should be cookie cutter identical, but kind of looking for the same global experience, because you can definitely game with people where your intentions, what you're really looking for, they clash. And you can find plenty of videos about that, and you probably had experiences like that where it doesn't really go well. In terms of the players, engaged players almost goes without saying. And likewise, there's players that are enthusiastic, involved, excited, dynamic. People that you don't feel like you have to wrangle or chase. So people that show up. As far as experience, though, like, I like new players. I've talked about this a lot because I like new players because they don't think like gamers. I really like to run a game for them because they haven't like turned into us yet, and so they think outside the box. That's really cool. But for like a core group, I really like people that are experienced, or at least good at what they do. And so that's kind of a fuzzy line right there, because I play with some relatively new people who just jump in with both feet and get it. Like, I am not the guy that thinks the fastest on his feet. I'm more of an author or a writer than an actor when it comes right down to it. And there's people that I play with that are relatively new. They just take it to it like a duck to water. So there could be some fuzzy line there, but just people that are they're skilled, that are good at what they do, good at gaming, good at the role playing experience. I sound like a jerk a little bit, but people that are all kind of in the same place in terms of like how smart they are, stability, maturity, that kind of stuff. I don't like it. It's always uncomfortable to have a group that's kind of like an odd man out, where there's a guy that you game with, but you wouldn't hang out with them, and sometimes anyhow. I'm gonna stop right there. But people, honestly, when it comes right down to people that I know I would click with and probably become friends with in a different context. That's an ideal game group for me. It's people that I just kind of gel with, no matter what, in terms of personality, in terms of intelligence, in terms of just, we don't have to agree on everything, but just that we kind of click as human beings. Another thing that kind of goes along with maturity is a group that's willing to discuss misgivings, or when they're unhappy, or when they have rules questions. A group that's willing to discuss things like how the systems affect how they feel, how the game style, what the game flavor is, what the genre we're doing, what the events in the game are. Willing to discuss what happened, how is the game going, what did you think about this, what did you think about that. I'm really enjoying the kind of discussions we're having in the All for One Regime Diablo Elite game, because we are talking a lot about how did that feel, how did this feel, what did you think about this, and there's a bit of push-pull. It just goes back to the other statement I said, because we're not all 100% on the same page in terms of what we like in a game experience. I think mostly there's a little bit of wiggle room there, little places where we kind of we conflict a little bit, but we're willing to discuss those things. So that to me is really important in an ideal game group, or just any kind of group of human beings. But that's become more and more important to me over time. Just that we're willing to discuss where we're having issues, or where we're having misunderstandings, or just being willing to improve it and having some uncomfortable conversations from time to time. Clearly, things like schedule and availability, it helps if your gamers don't live on the other side of the world. But sometimes that can't be helped. As far as frequency, like how often we play, in a perfect world, probably weekly for me, to be honest with you. I like the idea of just having a certain night set aside, that's going to be game night. Maybe bi-weekly. I understand we're all adults, we all have stuff going on. But just regardless of how frequent it is, although ideally it'd be weekly, having an understanding that we're going to contact each other and let each other know what if something's going on right away. I meet with another group of guys in a totally different context, and we meet bi-weekly. But we sit down and when we sat down with each other for that session, when we get together, we'll pull out our calendars. Maybe we'll book 1 or 2 sessions in advance, and if anything comes up, we let each other know right away. So we always kind of know when we're going to meet next. So something like that. But in a perfect world, it would be weekly. So I think that's about it. I think that kind of covers my ideal gaming table. Except I like one that's made of wood, because I don't know if you ever tried to roll dice on those plastic tables. I got a couple folding plastic tables downstairs, the ones where the legs fold out, and man, the dice don't roll for nothing on those things. They just kind of plop and hit them and don't roll at all. Have you had that experience? You seen that happen with those plastic tables? It looks like it'd be so great, so convenient, but not digging it. I like wood. So yeah, wooden gaming table. That's it, kids.